Hi, and thanks for dropping by the channel. For secularists and religionists alike, know that I make these videos to both increase and challenge your existing knowledge base. Have you subscribed yet? Today we will investigate teachings from the School of Divine Philosophy on the Book of Daniel and the Gospel of Mathew. In these prophecies, we will learn how Daniel provides us with traditional proofs from the sacred scriptures regarding the advent of the prophethood, or manifestation, of Jesus, the Bab, and of Baha'u'llah. Welcome to another video on spiritual reality from a Baha'i perspective. Today, we will refer to explanations of traditional arguments drawn from the sacred scriptures, for all that we have spoken of thus far have been rational arguments. Since this is the station of searching after truth and seeking the knowledge of the real, that station wherein the sore athirst longs for the water of life, and the struggling fish reaches the sea, wherein the ailing soul seeks the true physician and partakes of divine healing, wherein the lost caravan finds the path of truth, and the aimless and wandering ship attains the shore of salvation. The seeker must therefore be endowed with certain attributes. First, he must be fair-minded and detached from all save God. His heart must be entirely directed towards the supreme horizon and freed from the bondage of vain and selfish desires, for these are obstacles on the path. Furthermore, he must endure every tribulation, embody the utmost purity and sanctity, and renounce the love or hatred of all the peoples of the world, lest his love for one thing hinder him from investigating another, or his hatred for something prevent him from discerning its truth. This is the station of search, and the seeker must be endowed with these qualities and attributes. That is, until he attains this station, it will be impossible for him to gain the knowledge of the Son of Truth. Let us return to our theme. All the peoples of the world are awaiting two manifestations, who must be contemporaneous. This is what they all have been promised. In the Torah, the Jews are promised the Lord of hosts and the Messiah. In the Gospel, the return of Christ and Elijah is foretold. In the religion of Muhammad, there is the promise of the Mahdi and the Messiah. The same holds true of the Zoroastrians and others, but to belabor this matter would prolong our discourse. Our meaning is that all have been promised the advent of two successive manifestations. It has been prophesied that, through these twin manifestations, the earth will become another earth. All existence will be renewed. The contingent world will be clothed with the robe of a new life. Justice and righteousness will encompass the globe. Hatred and enmity will disappear. Whatever is the cause of division among the peoples, races, and nations will be obliterated. And that which ensures unity, harmony, and concord will be promoted. The heedless will arise from their slumber. The blind will see. The deaf will hear. The dumb will speak. The sick will be healed. The dead will be quickened. And war will give way to peace. Enmity will be transmuted into love. The root causes of contention and strife will be eliminated. Mankind will attain true felicity. This world will mirror forth the heavenly kingdom, and the earth below will become the throne of the realm above. All nations will become one nation. All religions will become one religion. All mankind will become one family and one kindred. All the regions of the earth will become as one. Racial, national, personal, linguistic, and political prejudices will be effaced and extinguished, and all will attain everlasting life under the shadow of the Lord of hosts. Now, one must prove the advent of these twin manifestations by reference to the sacred scriptures and by inference from the sayings of the prophets. The book of Daniel fixes the period between the rebuilding of Jerusalem and the martyrdom of Christ at 70 weeks. For it is through the martyrdom of Christ that the sacrifice is ended and the altar is destroyed. This prophecy thus refers to the advent of Christ. These 70 weeks begin with the restoration and rebuilding of Jerusalem, concerning which 4 edicts were issued by 3 kings. The first was Cyrus in 536 BC, and this is recorded in the first chapter of the book of Ezra. The second edict regarding the rebuilding of Jerusalem was issued by Darius of Persia in 519 BC, and this is recorded in the 6th chapter of Ezra. The third was issued by Artaxerxes in the 7th year of his reign, that is, in 457 BC, and this is recorded in the 7th chapter of Ezra. The fourth edict was issued by Artaxerxes in 444 BC, and this is recorded in the 2nd chapter of Nehemiah. What Daniel intended is the third edict, which was issued in 457 BC. 70 weeks makes 490 days. Each day, according to the text of the Bible, is 1 year. For in the Torah it is said, "The day of the Lord is 1 year." Therefore, 490 days is 490 years. The third edict of Artaxerxes was issued 457 years before the birth of Christ, and Christ was 33 years old at the time of his martyrdom and ascension. 33 added to 457 is 490, which is the time announced by Daniel for the advent of Christ. But in Daniel 9:25, this is expressed in another manner, that is, as 7 weeks and 62 weeks, which outwardly differs from the first statement. Many have been at a loss to reconcile these two statements. How can reference be made to 70 weeks in one place and 62 weeks and 7 weeks in another? These two statements do not accord. In reality, Daniel is referring to 2 different dates. One begins with the edict of Artaxerxes issued to Ezra to rebuild Jerusalem, and corresponds to the 70 weeks which came to an end with the ascension of Christ, when sacrifice and oblation were ended through his martyrdom. The second begins after the completion of the rebuilding of Jerusalem, which is 62 weeks until the ascension of Christ. The rebuilding of Jerusalem took 7 weeks, which is equivalent to 49 years. 7 weeks added to 62 weeks make 69 weeks, and in the last week, the ascension of Christ took place. This completes the 70 weeks, and no contradiction remains. Now that the advent of Christ has been proven through the prophecies of Daniel, let us establish the advent of Baha'u'llah and of the Bab. So far, we have only provided rational arguments. Let us now turn to traditional ones. In Daniel 8:13, it is said, "Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed, until it says, At the time of the end shall be the vision. That is to say, how long shall this misfortune, this ruin, this abasement and degradation endure? Or when will the morn of revelation dawn? Then he said, 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed." Briefly, the point is that he fixes a period of 2,300 years, for according to the text of the Torah, each day is 1 year. Therefore, from the date of the edict of Artaxerxes to rebuild Jerusalem until the day of the birth of Christ, there are 456 years. And from the birth of Christ until the day of the advent of the Bab, there are 1,844 years. And if 456 years are added to this number, it makes 2,300 years. That is to say, the fulfillment of the vision of Daniel took place in A.D. 1844, and this is the year of the advent of the Bab. Examine the text of the book of Daniel and observe how clearly he fixes the year of his advent. There could indeed be no clearer prophecy for a manifestation than this. In Matthew 24:3, Christ clearly says that what Daniel meant by this prophecy was the date of the advent. And this is the verse. As he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? Among the words he uttered in reply were the following. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. Thus he referred them to the 8th chapter of the book of Daniel, implying that whoever reads it should grasp when that time shall be. Consider how clearly the advent of the Bab has been specified in the Torah and the Gospel. Let us now establish the date of the advent of Baha'u'llah from the Torah. This date is calculated in lunar years from the revelation of the mission and the emigration of Muhammad. For in the religion of Muhammad, the lunar calendar is used, and all the ordinances regarding religious observances have been expressed in terms of that calendar. In Daniel 12:6 it is said, And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever that it shall be for a time, times and a half, and when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. As I have already explained the meaning of day, no further explanation is needed, but let me briefly say that each day of the Father is equivalent to 1 year, and each year consists of 12 months. Thus, 3.5 years makes 42 months, and 42 months is 1,260 days. And each day in the Bible is equivalent to 1 year, and it is the very year 1260 from the emigration of Muhammad according to the Muslim calendar that the Bab, the herald of Baha'u'llah, revealed his mission. Afterwards, in verses 11 and 12, it is said, And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate be set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waiteth, and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days. The commencement of this lunar reckoning is from the day of the proclamation of the prophethood of Muhammad in the land of Hejaz, and that was 3 years after the revelation of his mission, because in the beginning the prophethood of Muhammad was concealed, and no one knew of it save Khadijah and Ibn Nafal until it was publicly announced 3 years later. And it was in the year 1290, from the proclamation of the mission of Muhammad, that Baha'u'llah announced his revelation.